Welcome back. President Biden's border policy is now facing criticism from his own party. 14 House Democrats joining a GOP-led resolution which condemns Biden's immigration policies. The resolution says Biden, quote, has purposefully violated U.S. immigration law. Yesterday, Biden said he does not plan on taking any executive action to address the record number of migrants entering the country. Joining me right now is Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler. He's the House Chief Deputy Whip and a member of the Rules and Appropriations Committees. He's also an Iraq War veteran. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. The border is still wide open despite this conversation now broadening out among people. Do you expect any action from the president? Do you expect any action in Congress to address this?
Well, Maria, first off, thanks for having me on. Always enjoy it. What can we expect from Joe Biden when it comes to the border? More of the same. He's not going to do anything. And if Congress does pass legislation, remember, the House, with all Republican votes, passed H.R. 2, the first border security bill passed since the mid-90s. The Senate's not going to run that because they're controlled by Democrats. And even if they did run that and it passed the Senate, Joe Biden's not going to sign it into law. And if he does sign it into law, Maria, Mayorkas isn't going to enforce it. The Biden administration isn't going to enforce it. The only thing that can stop the chaos and the catastrophe we have at the southern border, Maria, is Donald Trump. That's why we need to get him elected. But it's impossible to overstate what's going on at the southern border. Last year, we had more illegal crossings in the United States than natural births here in the United States. You now have more illegal immigrants that have crossed than the population of 36 different states. You have over 20,000 military-age men from China that have come across. I'll let the viewers speculate as to why they think that is. You have over 300 individuals that were on the terrorist watch list that were apprehended, which begs the question, how many on the terrorist watch list were gotaways and that are in the interior of the United States right now waiting to unleash havoc whenever they get a call from the Middle East to unleash an international day of jihad? This is a catastrophe. There's one person responsible, that's Joe Biden, and there's one person that can reverse it, and that's Donald Trump.
I mean, is this about voting in the upcoming election? Because there just seems to be lots of speculation around this as Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, says that he's vowing to fight any voter ID laws. I find this amazing that the Attorney General is telling us he's going to vow to fight voter ID.
It's quite remarkable. You can't rent a car in this country without showing an ID. There's office buildings in Washington, D.C. you can't get into unless you show an ID. But then to vote that you don't need an ID. And the Democrats have basically admitted that one of the reasons they want illegal immigrants is so they can have an inflation in the census and expand the areas that are under Democrat-controlled areas. So they can inflate the Electoral College. They can inflate their representation in the House of Representatives. And just this week, in the Rules Committee, Congresswoman Jayapal from Seattle admitted that she thinks that illegal immigrants should be able to vote at least in local elections. That's just a precursor to allowing illegals to vote in federal elections, which is going to dilute the votes of American citizens. So they're trying to do this to dilute votes, to increase representation in the House of Representatives. They're also the Blame America First crowd, and they think that we somehow deserve this influx of immigration for some kind of perceived crimes that Western civilization has committed. Totally backward thinking. But again, going back to Biden, he had 94 executive orders that undermined what Trump did when he was president in his executive orders. Biden could end this crisis tomorrow. Yeah. He could reinstate catch and release. He could increase. He could go back for the border increase for the border patrol, and he can make sure that we finish parts of the wall. He could end the asylum program. There's so much that he can do. Again, 94 executive orders. There's one person that can bring those executive orders back, reverse them. That's President Trump. That's why this election is so important.
So the jig is up. OK, the jig is up. Now we know why we have this wide open border, putting our country in a vulnerable position so that we could see more voters on the Democrat Party. This is outrageous, Adam Johnson.
Yeah, it is outrageous. And what I find stunning is that at this very moment, we're all realizing how outrageous that is. Congressman, 14 Democrats actually have sided with Republicans, as Maria pointed out, and saying that President Biden's border policies are unacceptable. What do you think the tipping point was for those 14 Democrats to break ranks with the rest of their Democrats?
Well, I don't think they're acting out of pure motives. The entire Democratic Party has been on the side of illegal immigration, open border policy. I would speculate that those 14 Democrats read some polling where most Americans, including independents, are putting a priority on the border and border security. I think them looking ahead this fall and seeing their poll numbers got them to sign onto that. But their entire party has usually been in lockstep with Biden on this open immigration policy.
Well, it's also high. It's hard to hide when you've actually got murder happening at the hands of illegals. Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens revealed that his agency arrested 3 gang members attempting to illegally enter the country. Border Patrol has arrested 215 illegals with gang affiliations so far this year. And FBI Director Christopher Wray spoke about it the other day, warning of very dangerous threats at the border, including smugglers with ties to ISIS. Watch this.
Have any individuals who are known terrorists, suspected terrorists, or who are on the no-fly list presented themselves at the southern border or been apprehended at the southern border crossing illegally into the United States?
We have seen over the last, I think, 5 years an increase in the number of KSTs or known or suspected terrorists attempting to cross the southern border.
How worried are you that this gets worse from a terrorist standpoint, given the worries and warnings that we are hearing from Christopher Wray?
Maria, I'm incredibly worried about this. Remember, we've caught something like 300 individuals on the terrorist watch list, which again begs the question, how many are gotaways? It only took 19 terrorists to pull off 9/11. Right. I can guarantee you there's more than 19 terrorists. They're now in the interior of the country. I was down at the border in 2019. Border Patrol agents were showing me confiscated phones that had beheading videos on them. Maria, I prosecuted terrorists in Iraq. I can tell you the only reason somebody would have a beheading video on their cell phone is because they're part of a terrorist organization. And we would be naive to think that there aren't sleeper cells of terrorists here in the United States, also probably sleeper cells of military-aged Chinese men that the Chinese party have given the okay to come here, waiting to unleash chaos, probably if and when China tries to invade Taiwan. So not only are we having a threat from terrorism, there's also a threat from the CCP here as well.
Yeah, so you believe these Chinese nationals that are coming through the border who do look largely military-aged men, you believe they're being directed by the Chinese government to come here?
They're absolutely being directed. You can't do anything in China without approval from the government, let alone leave the country. So they're coming here. They're coming here with the direction of the PLA and the CCP. And I would speculate that if China invades Taiwan, they would try to have some kind of cyber attack to throw us off guard, maybe have these sleeper cells attack critical infrastructure, engage in espionage, maybe even lead and foment civil unrest with far-left radical groups, and debilitate our ability to react to an impending invasion of Taiwan. I'm not naive enough to think that they're here to find gainful employment. They're here at the direction of the CCP and PLA.
Wow, that is incredible. I want to switch gears and ask you about the budget issues and the spending issues. The White House announced a $300 million military aid package for Ukraine yesterday, after President Biden already requested $7.3 trillion for his annual budget proposal. That includes $5.5 trillion of new taxes, higher taxes for business and the highest earners. Where is this going?
It's going absolutely nowhere, Maria, nor should it. That $5 trillion, the Biden administration and far-left Democrats can say that that's going to be targeted at the wealthiest Americans. It's not. You could confiscate all the wealth of the wealthiest Americans. You're still not going to solve the problem. That $5.5 trillion is going to be taken from the working class, from middle America is where they're doing that. And then to collect that money, they also want $104 billion on top of the $80 billion they already had to increase the IRS. The Biden administration is coming for the middle class in their pocketbooks.
All right. So, I mean, obviously he's not going to raise taxes this year, but it gives you an indication of what Biden's next 4 years would look like. $5.5 trillion of higher taxes. I don't know who would announce that during an election year, but he just told us his plans. So thank you for that. Next Friday, you've got another government funding deadline. Will we see a government shutdown? Are you going to be able to get your work done in terms of these appropriations bills? Real quick.
I think that the second tranche of appropriation bills, the last half, will pass next week. It'll pass on suspension. So I'm optimistic we'll avoid a government shutdown. All
right, Congressman. Good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
Reschenthaler joining us in D.C. Quick break, and then the